Yes.
Well, if everyone's ready, we can start, right?
Yes.
Welcome, everyone, to October's Fusatsu ceremony. Can everyone hear me okay? Just wave or... Yes, okay, good. Welcome to October's Fusatsu ceremony, where we are reminded of the precepts, whether we've taken them formally or not. It is a wonderful opportunity to hear the precepts recited and to be reminded of why they are an absolutely essential part of our Buddhist practice. And so during this ceremony, we begin as usual with atoning or repenting, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're most comfortable with, for past misdeeds, for our inability, basically, to fully, continuously live by the precepts. Then we move on to inviting the presence of the Buddhas. And immediately after that, we purify ourselves with the water in preparation for the actual precepts being recited. And those of us that have received the precepts formally recommit to them, and those of you that have not yet done so are able to listen to them wholeheartedly. And then we end the ceremony as usual with refuge verses, bodhisattva vows, and the dedication. So, let's begin with the beginning. The great precepts of Gautama Buddha were kept by all Buddhas. They were transmitted from Buddha to Buddha, and they were received by ancestor after ancestor. Our great master, Gautama Buddha, transmitted the precepts to Master Mahakashyapa. Master Mahakashyapa transmitted the precepts to Master Ananda. And the transmission of the precepts has continued in this way, passing from orthodox successor to orthodox successor in one line. Now we reaffirm our commitment to the precepts, to return the profound benevolence of Gautama Buddha. We trust this to be the true reception of Gautama Buddha's wisdom and life. Respectfully following the approval of Gautama Buddha, we would like to devote ourselves to the precepts, beginning with atoning for past misdeeds. And for this part, we repeat the verse of atonement. You can sit where you are. Traditionally, this part is done kneeling, so I will be doing that. You do whatever you're comfortable or your body allows.
All harmful acts, words, and thoughts, ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. All harmful acts, words, and thoughts, ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all. All harmful acts, words, and thoughts, ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind, now I atone for them all.
As usual, give me a second, Gote. As usual, for this part, we pay homage to the Buddhas of the past. So this is done with a prostration after each one of the small bells. If you can do prostrations, do prostrations. If you can do deep bows in gasho, please do deep bows in gasho. If you can only do a little gasho, do a little gasho.
Homage to the 7 Buddhas of the past. Homage to Shakyamuni Buddha, a person of this earth. Homage to Miroku Buddha, symbol of hope for the future. Homage to Monju Bodhisattva, symbol of great wisdom. Homage to Fugen Bodhisattva, symbol of great activity. Homage to Kanzeon Bodhisattva, symbol of great compassion. Homage to the successive generations of ancestor Bodhisattvas.
Please take your seat. Washin, you can keep your zagu on the cushion for the final prostrations. We're now at the part of the ceremony where we do the very physical act of purifying ourselves with water and a leaf. And I say physical because, it's a metaphorical cleansing, but at the same time, it is a very physical act where we use actual water and an actual leaf to illustrate the act of complete cleanliness or cleansing before we open ourselves up to listen to the precepts. So, as usual, sometimes, as usual, we, say a few words before this part. And this month, during this entire month, we've been talking about the first major precept on taking life, which in our case is worded as to seek as we can in this body and life to avoid taking, to refrain from the taking of life. Now, because of all this discussion about the precepts, I went on a little journey of investigating some of the origins and the history of the precepts. And you might know that the precepts are coming from the Brahmanet Sutra, which is a Mahayana sutra that was probably composed in China. It's also called the Brahmajala Sutra. The part of the ceremony today where we read a little excerpt comes from the preface to the Brahmajala Sutra. But I recently found out that the Brahmajala Sutra that we base our precepts on is a second life of a more ancient Brahmajala Sutra, which belongs to the Pali canon, before the creation of the Mahayana version. And so, me being the curious me, I went and I dug to see what that was about, and if they were the same thing or if they were different things. And to cut a long story short, our entire Brahmajala Sutra that we base the precepts on is based on merely the first part of the original Brahmajala Sutra that belongs to the Pali canon. The story goes that the Buddha and his disciples came back from their alms round, and the Buddha was in one corner sitting in meditation, and his disciples, the monks, gathered in the hall to talk. And the topic of discussion was a Brahmin, I believe, and his student that were traveling alongside the Buddha and his community. And it turns out that the Brahmin was continuously disparaging the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, while his student was continuously praising the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And so the monks were discussing amongst themselves, how can this be? Why are they behaving like that? How can they disparage? How can one of them disparage Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? And the Buddha heard and came to them, and this is where our Brahmajala Sutra has its inception. What happens is that the Buddha comes and he basically tells them the following. Don't be upset if someone denigrates, disparages the Buddha or the Dharma or the Sangha. But if they praise the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, don't rejoice either. And he says, why? He says, when a person either denigrates or praises something, his words are brought about only by lesser factors of conduct or moral discipline. An ordinary person with little learning cannot reach a deeper level of understanding. He takes whatever he observes externally as real, and because of this, he praises it. And then the Buddha goes into saying, people praise me, saying, the Shramana Gautama has discarded the sword and the cane, weapons, removed any intent to harm life, and extinguished every action that injures life, extending compassion in good conscience to all sentient beings. I'm sure you notice that this is the precept on refraining from taking life. And the Buddha says, what these words praise are only lesser factors of conduct or moral discipline. An ordinary person with little learning praises the Buddha because of these external factors. And so reading this, I thought, the Buddha is giving a description of himself. The sutra itself continues after this with the rest of the precepts. Shramana Gautama does not steal. Shramana Gautama does not do this and that and that. And that's the origin of our precepts. But here he doesn't deny it. He doesn't contest it. He says, people praise me because I behave like this. But they praise me because they only look at the surface. And that ties extremely well into the nature of our precepts, right? We tend to look at the precepts as rules and regulations, and they're set in stone, and there has to be one interpretation. There has to be one way of looking at them, right? But the Buddha says, if someone does good or someone does bad, there is something behind it. They're an expression of the true person, of the Buddha Dharma. He says, don't praise the acts themselves. Those are just a manifestation of what's really underneath, which is deeper understanding, an enlightened mind. And so the precepts for us function like that mirror of what's behind our understanding, our practice. Our actions are fruits of those things. And so the Buddha says, don't praise the fruits. Praise the tree, I guess, in a way. And so I thought it was an interesting twist of events, the way a whole sutra was basically born out of just the beginning 7 or 8 paragraphs of an entirely different sutra. And somehow it conveys exactly the same message. And so now we're here, so we're going to purify ourselves in order to listen to those precepts in a minute and recommit to those precepts, remembering the Buddha's words. Look underneath the surface. Look beyond just the actions themselves. And so if you brought water and a leaf, I invite you to take the water and the leaf and sprinkle yourselves 3 times. You don't need to re-dip, I was told. You just dip once. And if you don't have water in the leaf, it's okay. I should entirely sprinkle you from here, so you'll be fine. You'll still end up purified by the end of the ceremony. And so we take the leaf, and we purify ourselves 3 times. I should do the same for all of you in the 10 directions. And we now consider ourselves purified before we listen to the precepts. All you disciples of the Buddha, join your palms in reverence and listen wholeheartedly. I would now like to articulate the preface to the great precepts of the Buddhas. If the members of the assembly will quietly listen, and they know that they have done wrong, they will atone. If they atone, then they will be at ease. If they do not repent, their wrongdoing will grow more grievous. Those who have done wrong are silent, and because of their silence, you should know that they are all purified. Worthy monks, laymen, laywomen, and all the rest, listen well. In this difficult age, when the lifetime of the Buddha sometimes seems distant, you should revere the pratimoksha. The pratimoksha is none other than these precepts. When you observe these precepts, it is like darkness meeting with light. It is like someone poor attaining a treasure. It is like someone who is ill being healed. It is like a prisoner being released from his chains. It's like a traveler who is able to return home. You should know that these rules are the great teacher for this assembly of people, no different from the presence of the Buddha in the world here and now. Thoughts of fear are difficult to produce. Unwholesome thoughts are difficult to give rise to. Therefore, a sutra says, do not trivialize minor misdeeds as if they're not problematic. Drops of water, although tiny, will gradually fill a large basin. A single instant of wrongdoing can lead you to fall into a hell of uninterrupted suffering. Once you lose your human body, you may not get another one for 10,000 kalpas. Just as a galloping horse, one's physical strength will not remain. The transience of human life goes beyond the mountains and the seas. Even if something remains for the duration of one day, it will be quite difficult to hold on to it tomorrow. Members of the assembly should each energetically advance their own minds. Be careful not to be lazy, negligent, drowsy, or arbitrary. In the evening, you must gather your thoughts and focus them firmly on the three treasures. Don't take as being a waste of time the effort to deepen your repentance for those of later generations. Members of the assembly, each of you, in your own minds, should carefully rely on these precepts. Discipline yourselves in the practices that accord with the Buddha's teachings. And now let us reaffirm our commitment or simply listen to the 16 precepts. Today, I reaffirm my commitment to seek as I can in this body and life to avoid doing harm, to seek as I can in this body and life to live in a helpful and helping way, doing good, to seek as I can in this body and life to live for the benefit of all sentient beings, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from the killing of life, to seek as I can in this body and life to live in generosity and refrain from taking that which is not given, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from misusing sexuality and all desire, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from false and malicious speech, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from intoxication in its many forms, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from unconstructively criticizing the errors and faults of others, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from praising oneself and judging others, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from stinginess in bestowing the Buddhist teachings and all precious things, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from all anger, to seek as I can in this body and life to refrain from disparaging the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. For the refuge verse, Kote, give me a second because my legs are numb. And I might break my toes. For the refuge verse, again, there is a prostration or dip bowing gasho at the end with the small bell. So please do whatever your body allows and whatever you feel comfortable with doing.
I take refuge in Buddha. May all living beings embody the great way and give rise to the highest aspiration. I take refuge in Dharma. May all living beings enter deeply into the sutras, that ocean of wisdom. I take refuge in Sangha. May all living beings support the harmony in the community, free from all hindrances. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless. To transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible. To perceive reality, though reality is boundless. To attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless. To transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible. To perceive reality, though reality is boundless. To attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable. To save all sentient beings, though beings numberless. To transform all delusions, though delusions inexhaustible. To perceive reality, though reality is boundless. To attain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable.
Abiding in this ephemeral world, may we exist in muddy water with purity like a lotus. Nothing escapes the boundless mind. Thus we bow to Buddha. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here now. In reaffirming our commitments to the precepts, we dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha, honored one, the historical Buddha and teacher, to the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to all our arhats and bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, and their relations throughout the Dharma worlds. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. To all Buddhas throughout space and time. To all bodhisattvas, mahasattvas, aha, prajna, paramita. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Let me come close to you. It is never a dull ceremony, this one. It is never not wonderful to do this together. And I'm always grateful that you find the time to be here. Those of you that are on the screen, and those of you that will sit with the recording, because many of our friends will be sitting with the recording, which is the beauty of what we do here at Treeleaf. Nothing stays hidden. Everything is exposed. So everyone gets to participate to the best of their abilities. But I thank you sincerely for your presence here in person, supporting all of this. I would like to confirm that I've fully done the exercise for this month with the 72 prostrations that I did. So I will hopefully see you next month. So we do this again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on gently to those precepts for the next whatever days until the next ceremony. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you, Dion.